A global superpower is defined as a state with a dominant position characterized by its extensive ability to exert influence, as well as its ability to project power on a global scale. A superpower possesses military power and economic might, and a general influence vastly superior to other states. When the United States became the world superpower in the aftermath of World War II, it did so by implementing a system. This system was made up of a global military order, a global currency, as well as a global economic order. When analyzing America's global military order, this was built on the foundation of NATO and America using its deep sea navy to ensure economic transactions over the high seas. In regards to America's economic order, this segment was built on the foundation of two organizations, today known as the World Trade Organization and the World Bank. Lastly, when it came to the global currency, up until the Nixon administration, the instrument of the global currency was the dollar, backed by the gold standard. Although the dollar is no longer backed by gold, the dollar is still widely accepted as a reserve currency. For over 3 decades now, China has been trying to implement its own system to counter the global system provided by the United States. Accordingly, China has grand plans for its currency to eventually rival the dollar. Focusing our attention on China's global economic order, China is currently the largest trading partner for over 130 nations. Many of these nations are in Africa, where China has recently passed the United States in terms of total trade. Numerous trade deals, as well as the Belt and Road Initiative, are serving to cement this shift, contributing to the establishment of a Chinese sphere of economic influence against the backdrop of the American global order. Lastly, in regards to China's global military order, this is where China truly comes up lacking. However, China is currently trying to tip the scales by looking to form a global military order of its own. On this episode of Up Close and Center, we will analyze China's attempts to create a global military order through a web of alliances, and what this could entail for the African continent. My name's Ebube Okoli. Welcome to Up Close and Center. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, and hit that bell notification icon so that you'll be among the first to know every time new content becomes available. Additionally, if you have any further analysis on the topic, please feel free to use the comment section. Almost 100 years of unopposed American dominance has allowed the United States to forge a network of global alliances. At present, America has thousands of troops across the continent. Many of these troops operate out of the Horn of Africa. America's security arrangements are the bedrock of its foreign policy and system. While on the other hand, China has worked hard to avoid over-entangling military alliances and has simply chosen the path of non-interference. China has recently increased political, military, and economic ties with Africa. Annual trade between China and Africa recently surpassed $254 billion. To gain power and influence, China has recently offered loans, investments, and favorable as well as not so favorable trade deals. China has used this strategy to win friends and influence not only in Africa, but across the globe. Nonetheless, China is beginning to understand that geoeconomics alone is insufficient to be a superpower. At this point in China's evolution, hard power through a global military order is now necessary. Presently, China is forming its own global military order in order to rival America's global military order, one of the 3 pillars of the dominant American global system. Such a move would have potentials to rival NATO, or in the alternative, be reminiscent of the Warsaw Pact. Consequently, China has been seeking to strengthen its military relations with several nations. Those nations include Iran, Pakistan, and Russia. These nations have already begun allowing for joint military exercises and joint military exchanges. Once China is able to formally cement its global military order, this may mark a turning point in the superpower rivalry, with potentials to create a multipolar world order. However, China's plans are made more difficult by the fact that many of the best potential allies are already in some way allied with the United States and their current global system. It also doesn't help that many nations, especially nations in Asia, simply don't trust China's long-term ambitions. Consequently, China's best options for founding nations are Iran, Russia, and Pakistan. Turning our attention to Iran. Recently, Iran and China signed a 25-year agreement, which aims to increase intelligence sharing, cybersecurity, weapons development, joint military exchanges, and economic investments. Even with all of this, Iran is problematic for China in several ways. Iran's sponsorship of proxy conflicts in its backyard means that it has almost no regional allies. Iran is also isolated almost to the point of economic ruin. Therefore, Iran is desperate for economic and military support, and China sees that as an opportunity. An alliance with Iran would necessitate China to downgrade its diplomatic ties with most neighboring Arab states and Israel. Obviously, this isn't the type of formal ally that China is looking for. Nevertheless, for China, Iran serves a strategic interest in that Iran can be used by China to disperse American attention away from China's immediate proximity. The more the US is preoccupied with Iran, the more room China has to maneuver in its regional sphere of influence. So while China plans to deepen its military ties with Iran, due to Iran's geopolitical baggage, a formal alliance is highly unlikely. Looking north to Russia. China and Russia recently upgraded their union to a comprehensive strategic partnership. However, in spite of good relations, a binding military treaty between the two remains ever elusive. There are several reasons for this dilemma. For one, China's economy is about 10 times the size of Russia's. Second, China's military budget eclipses Russian spending by more than $230 billion. And thirdly, a military alliance between the two would mean that Russia would be the clear junior partner. Thus, there may come a time when Russia is asked by China to make drastic concessions, and as the junior partner, Russia would have limited means of refusal. This is the main geopolitical reason for Russia's reluctance in signing a binding mutual defense clause with China. Lastly, in analyzing Pakistan. For China, Pakistan is another potential valuable candidate. For starters, Pakistan is a nation armed with nuclear weapons. It has a population of over 230 million. As the Chinese-American Cold War heats up, Pakistan is geopolitically stuck in the middle. Therefore, Pakistan does not know how much it can develop its ties with China without permanently damaging its political ties to the United States. So while China's military ties to Pakistan will deepen in the coming decade, Pakistan will be cautious to swing completely to China's side. However, of all of China's potential allies, Pakistan tops the list as the most possible formal alliance. In analyzing China's moves to establish a global military order, although appearing to be an uphill battle against America's pre-established global military order, for the African, one question becomes glaringly obvious, and that question is, in a potentially multipolar global order, where exactly does Africa fit in? And which countries on the continent are actually projecting policy into the future to ensure that Africa won't be left out in the game of power? Although Africa is becoming more economically significant, so far the continent has demonstrated little will to act as a united sovereign power with an accompanying system. Even with the strong demographic growth, Africa has yet to adopt any system within the continent that could possibly even begin to compete with either the established or potentially emerging systems. Moreover, the extreme danger of direct military confrontation between the new and old competing global systems has potential blowback on states not even indirectly involved with either system and are merely at the periphery. Such peripheral zones potentially include many nations in Africa. Due to Africa's ethnic makeup, many modern nations are susceptible to conflict based on nationalism, separatism, and religious extremism, as both a catalyst to conflict and convenient tools for external intervention. In order to preserve old world orders and global governance, external state actors have historically been ready to use such means as bribing corrupt elites and influencing ethnic rivalries to create beneficial chaos for the external actors. At the center of modern African neocolonialism, there is not only the external players' desire to strengthen their position with regard to supplies and consumption of strategically important resources, but these external actors are also vying to secure lasting spheres of influence as part of the competitive struggle for who will control the world's economy over the next 30 years. Over the next 3 decades, Africa would have become the world's main source of global work power, consumer demand, young people, and nature-dependent prerequisites for the sustaining of the world's economy. As nations compete with their systems and Africa becomes more valuable, African elites will need to be even smarter about exerting their influence. African leaders must therefore prioritize inter-African network building, inter-African agenda setting, indigenous innovations, electing problem-solving politicians devoid of religious or ethnic sentiments, and ensuring interests are framed in terms of the collective rather than the bilateral. If African leaders do not work effectively, their interests may be under or even misrepresented in this potentially multipolar world order. As the world evolves, African leaders will have to be wise and evolve right along with it. This concludes our broadcast of Up Close and Center. Please remember to help us defeat the algorithm by liking, subscribing, and hitting that bell notification icon so that you'll be among the first to know every time new content becomes available. Additionally, if you have any further analysis, please feel free to use the comment section. Thank you for your time and your commitment to the continent.